And it's early too. I really don't know what I'm doing. Let's see. Okay, here goes. Good morning. Good morning. Trying to see if I can. Okay. Listen. Me and this thing here. Oh. Good morning. Good morning. I wanted to jump on really, really fast. I have a 10 o'clock session. But before I started my session, I was spending some time with the Lord, and this came to me on top of the questions that I get asked on a regular. And so I thought I would just briefly talk about this for a moment. Good morning. Cheers to this self-care Saturday. I'm normally on here on Saturdays talking about self-care for my wives, but like I said, I was up this morning reading, doing some studying, and this came to me, and like I said, I get this question asked on a regular. And so that question is, why or what do you do when God asks you to stay in a unhealthy marriage? Like, why would God want me to be in a unhealthy marriage, or why would God want me to stay with my unhealthy spouse? Now, I always feel like I have to put up disclaimers and put stuff out there. I am not on here to advertise about physical abuse. All right. So when it comes down to physical abuse, I absolutely believe that spouses need that time of separation. I do not, what's the word? I can't think of the word. I don't endorse that. I don't endorse physical abuse. And so I'm not on here to tell spouses to stay in a physical abusive relationship, or a physical abusive marriage. But I did want to share with you and give you some examples of some examples of unhealthy marriage, and like, why would God ask me to stay in an unhealthy marriage? And one of the things I like to just first say, when God is asking a wife, and I speak to wives because um, I'm a wife coach. My name is Coach T. I coach his wife, Christian wives, while married to unhealthy or toxic husbands. And I help wives gain clarity of their marital wound, bring healing and restoration, and prioritize self-care and healthy boundaries. All right. And so one of the things you have to understand, if God is asking you, wife, to stay in that unhealthy marital covenant, if God is saying, okay, I don't want you to leave your husband, or I don't want you to, divorce your husband. I want you to go through with this marriage. If God is asking you to stay in that or to go along with that, you have to understand that God is trying to do a work in you, wife. This has absolutely nothing to do with your husband. And that was something that I had to learn the hard way. Okay. And so I like to just put that part out there. And so that's why one of the questions I always ask my wives when I speak to them, when I come into conversation with them, when they are describing to me about their marital injury or what they have going on in their marriage, I always ask the question, what was God's instructions to you? What was God's instructions to you? Because only from there are we able to go forward, or maybe I'm not the right coach for you. I need to know what God specifically have asked you to do. Normally when wives come to me, they are already at a place where they have done everything they can do in their own strength, and now they are really needing to know and get clarity on what I need to do from here. Like, I am really stuck right now. I'm really stuck. And so you have to know that God has given you the okay to go forward in your marital covenant, especially when you're dealing with an unhealthy, toxic husband. Okay. If God is asking you to stay, wife, in that unhealthy marriage with that toxic husband, you have to understand this is not about your husband. And so many wives get that part mixed up. This is not about your husband. This is about God trying to do something in you. This is about God saying, I choose you. And that's why when I give my definition of what a hiswife is a wife that has been chosen by God to bring forward divine orders. She have divine orders from God to bring restoration, to bring healing, to bring deliverance to her marital covenant. All right. So she has been chosen. She has been chosen. She's not just a, random person. This person, God has said, yes, I choose you. And I always give the example of the story of Jesus' mother, Mary. Out of all the people, Jesus could have had anybody for his mother. He could have had anybody for his mother, but God chose Mary specifically for that task, for that role, to bring forth the birth of Jesus Christ. And so when God tells you to stay in that marriage, wife, when he tells you to stand by your husband, or he tells you to walk with your husband, he tells you to go through that marital journey with him in spite of the ugly, all right, you have to understand that this is not about your husband. It's about you. This is about you. This is about you. All right. And so I want to give some examples of some, just some unhealthy and toxic examples in the marital covenant. One of the things will be, having unhealthy communication. Communication is the oxygen in your marital covenant. Communication is the oxygen in your marital covenant. So if there is no communication, or if there is unhealthy communication in the marriage, you don't have a marriage. You need to be able to communicate. All right. Disrespect, dishonor. The Bible specifically tells us in Ephesians that a wife is supposed to honor and respect her husband, and a husband is supposed to love his wife. All right. No accountability, no boundaries in the marital covenant. Pride and selfishness on overload. Okay, you have some people who are prideful, but then you have some pride that is on overload. Okay, just complete shutdown, no emotional access to each other. Basically, you like stonewalling each other. The quiet treatment, the silent treatment has kicked in. You feel like you're dealing with a narcissistic type of person, or you got narcissistic things that's happening in the marital covenant. All right. Abuse. That could be drug abuse, substance abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, basically meaning you ain't getting no sex in the marital covenant. That's abuse. That is a form of abuse. People don't think that it is, but it is. Abandonment, rejection, in the marital covenant, all that is all forms of abuse. Verbal abuse, those are word curses. Okay? And so, but God is saying, even with all that going on, even with all that foolery that's taking place, I want you to stay, wife. I want you to stay. This man has called you out your name. This man has said all types of mean and ugly things to you. This man have been disrespectful on top of disrespect. This man has come out and told you what he's doing, what he's not going to do. This man has shown you over and over again that I don't want to be with you. This is not the type of person I would spend the rest of my life with. Like, I would not choose you to be my spouse. I would not choose you to be my husband. Like, what went wrong? What did what would I do? And so I know I've shared before on here about the story of Hosea and Gomer, which, God chose Hosea to bring restoration in his marriage with Gomer. Gomer was a woman of the streets. They got married. She was already a prostitute. She was ripping and running in the street. She was doing what she was doing. And God told, Hosea, listen, I want you to go after her. I want you to go and bring her back. And, she's going to do many, many things to you. She's going to cause all kinds of heartache and havoc. But I want you to bring back. Don't you know? You got to have a different kind of strength to deal with something like that. You have to have a different kind of strength to deal with that type of spouse, with that type of, with that type of person. All right. And I like to highlight this part here. A lot of times, because I also marry couples. A lot of times people think when they're getting ready to, start a marital journey, and it's not to discourage you. It's not to discourage you. But I believe that people need to be honest. And people need to come into, when you do your premarital sessions, people need to be honest. They don't need to just give you all the, you got communication issues. You're going to have the financial issues. You're going to have times where you don't like each other. You're going to have times when you're going to have a season of suffering. All right. You're going to have a season of suffering. My earring came out. You're going to have a season of suffering in your marriage. That is part of the marriage package. On top of the nice dress, on top of the fancy ceremony, on top of the, I'm here with my boo, we vacationing, we traveling, we doing things together, on top of all the good stuff that happens in the marriage, because there is a lot of good things. There are a lot of benefits in the marital covenant. But you have to understand that suffering comes with the marital covenant. That is just part of the package. All right. And God's word tells us that. God said, you want my glory, you have to go through my suffering as well. You want a part of my glory, you will have to go through the suffering as well. So sometimes God allows suffering to take place in our marriage for a season to bring forth righteousness, to bring forth repentance, to bring forth character, to bring forth change. All right. I tell wives all the time, again, I am a witness that you get to decide how long your season of suffering is. You get to decide how long you last in that, okay? For me, Coach T, mine was a little bit longer, all right? Mine was a little bit longer because I was stubborn, I was prideful, I was controlling, and I did not have a full understanding of what God's word said. All right. I didn't have a full understanding of God's word. I did not get the premarital counseling. I did not set boundaries in our marriage, because everything was like, okay, well, you just supposed to know. I just went off a lot of assumptions. I looked at a lot of things of, what I seen others around me doing. I didn't get understanding. I didn't get wisdom. All right. And so that's one of the reasons why I emphasize that to my couples, my engaged couples, to make sure that you do that before you go into the marital covenant. And so when I did get clarity on God's word and what the marriage covenant was about, then I turned into this religious person. So I had a religious spirit on me that took over me, and now I was beating my husband over the head with God's word. Oh, you're not supposed to do this. Oh, you're not supposed to do that. Oh, you're not, why sometimes forget that we can contribute some things in our marriage. We can contribute some of those things in our marriage. And I remember God calling me out. One day, and it knocked me on my feet. I think I was in a coma for like 3 days, like for a whole weekend. I promise you. God told me I was deceived. I had been deceived. As much wisdom I had received, and as much information I had, gained and knowledge, and how I had came into understanding of God's word, God told me I was deceived. I was deceived. That I had a religious spirit and I was using it against my husband. All right. So suffering brings forth repentance, change, righteousness. Suffering brings forth those things. All right. It comes with the marriage, though. It comes with the marital covenant. And God uses that. To bring transformation in your marriage. Suffering comes with the marriage covenant. It's important for wives to understand their role and assignment if God has asked you to stay in your marital covenant. If God has asked you to stay in your unhealthy marriage, wives, you have to understand that you have an assignment there. You have to understand that you have an assignment. You have an assignment in that marriage, all right? And most time, God is using that to bring forth reconciliation and restoration, okay? So I teach wives, and I'm going to list those things for you. Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 or 7 things. All right. I'm going to give you 6 or 7 things that you can start doing wise. If God has asked you to stay in that unhealthy marital covenant, and one of the things I get all the times from wives, but what about him? But what about him? But what about him? But what about him? And I'm always saying, we're not talking about him. What about you? How can you? We can discuss him. We can bring him up. But I think a lot of times wives are looking for me to join in with them, or come alongside with them to, bash or point out his wrongs. No, my job as your wife coach is to give you clarity on what you are dealing with that in that unhealthy marriage. That's what my job is, to bring forth clarity and help you to have a better understanding of what you're dealing with, and to help you look at yourself. A lot of times wives are looking at his side. He doing this, he doing that, he did this, he doing that. And God is trying to say, what about you? What about you? So one of the first things I teach wives, help them with the course that I offer, which is a 9 weeks, it's a 9 weeks healing course for wives that are married to unhealthy spouses. The first thing I have wives to do is to look at themselves and ask the question, what are your attributes to your unhealthy marriage? What did you do? What was it that you did that have brought some of this mess in the marital covenant? And you would not believe the responses I get, because most of the time I get, oh, it wasn't me. Oh, I didn't do anything. And I'm saying to myself, you ain't do nothing. Like, you ain't do nothing to bring some of this. You have to take some accountability in your part. All right. It's 2 people in the marriage covenant. And so let's take your eyes off of him and focus on yourself. What did you bring to cause some of this mess in your marriage? All right. And that's one of the things, that's one of the first things I ask wives to start doing, to start looking at. All right. One of the second things that I also bring forth to wives and help them to understand is you need to learn who your real opponent is in your marriage covenant. You need to be aware of your marital enemy. And this is something where I've got to ask the question, especially when you marry people, they ask the question, well, why do you think it's so many, divorces? Or why do you think is the highest divorce rate? What's the reason for the divorce rate? I know we talk about communication, we talk about finances, we talk about adultery, we talk about all these different things, but nobody talks about the spiritual side of the marital covenant. Nobody talks about the generational curses. Nobody talks about the altars, or the witchcraft spirits in your family, or the things that took place, the wrong thinking, the manipulation and the control that a lot of times people think is normal. They think is normal. They think, oh, well, happy wife, happy life. No, that's a spirit. That is a spirit. It's not happy wife, happy life. All right. It's about learning who your marital opponent is. A lot of times, and I'm, again, I'm a witness. I'm here for it. A lot of times we get married and we are, we've already been involved with somebody else. So now we got all these soul ties connected. All right. So we connected to other people in the spirit realm and we don't even know it. And you thinking, oh, why me and my husband can't get along, or why this and that and the others are going on? Because you got some soul ties. My husband used to always, I had a son before I got married to my husband. And so I was in a relationship with my son's father for like 6 years. And my husband used to always tell me, listen, I tell wives, I don't care if he's drunk, toe down, beat down, whatever his situation is, listen to him, because he has something to say. And I do believe, and I truly believe, I don't care what status or what state of mind he's in, drunk, on drugs, whatever. Listen to him, because sometimes what your husband is telling you is something that God is trying to bring to you, whether or not you want to receive it or not. And a lot of times women get upset when their husbands are telling them things, but a lot of times what he's telling you, he's pointing out something very specific, all right? And so my husband used to always tell me, he like, that man, he still love you. That man, he still want to be with you. I see how he look at you. I see the way he want to talk to you. I see how he look in your eyes. And I said to myself, ain't nobody studying him. Ain't nobody studying him. I would get so upset with my husband when he would accuse me of, wanting to be with my ex, or my ex wanting to be with me. I'm like, that's not true. That's not the case, or whatever. And it took for the Lord, after many years later, after me and my husband was finally separated, it took for the Lord to tell me, you are still connected to your son's father. It is a soul tie connection there. So nobody talks about that kind of stuff when you come to premarital counseling. And listen, my background is the church. I did most of my marital training from the church, so I did 12 years in ministry, working with couples, working with wives, working in the background of the church. They don't talk about stuff like that. I didn't get that information from the church. I got that information outside of the church. I got that information later. I got the information after I had to go through some hard stuff in my marriage. They didn't talk about that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that wives have to take into consideration is you got to learn your opponent. You have to learn who your enemy is before going into the marital covenant. And that's one of the things I teach my couples. Know who your opponent is. I give them a whole list of their opponents, so you can know who you are fighting in this marriage, because you're not just fighting and dealing with your husband. You're dealing with a whole lot of other stuff. All right. You're dealing with a whole lot of other stuff. All right. The third thing I would say to my wives and what I teach them is to feed your spirit. And this is what that soul care, one of my program is self-care soul care. And so I talks about soul care on a regular, about feeding your spirit and getting your spirit fed and spending that time with God. You're not, wife, going to be able to be in relationship with an unhealthy, toxic, deranged husband and be in your right state of mind if you don't have God with you. You're just not going to be able to do it. You can try, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So you have to make sure that you're feeding your spirit, that you're taking care of yourself in that sense. All right. Another thing I mentioned to my wives, which is hard. It's hard, especially when that spouse has talked to you some type of way. Like I said, emotional abuse or verbal abuse, when that spouse is talking to you all sideways and stuff, it's hard for you to look at that spouse and say, oh, well, thank you for doing what you're supposed to do, or thank you for getting the kids ready for school, or thank you for cooking dinner tonight, or thank you for helping around the house. I always tell wives to overly do it. Let him know that you see him. Let him know that you appreciate him, because you got to understand, this person is unhealthy and toxic for a reason. They have their own stuff going on anyways. And so if there be any way possible for you to overindulge him with compliments, overindulge him with affirmations, overindulge him and let him know that you see him, that what he's doing is not going unnoticed, you have to still prioritize. And wives hate when I say this kind of stuff, but I tell them all the time, you have to prioritize that unhealthy spouse. You still have to prioritize him, even though he's not acting like the husband that you would want him to be, even though he's not behaving the way you would want him to behave. You still have to make him a priority, whether he want to be part of it or not, whether he say okay or whatever. Still make him a priority. Put him on your schedule. Put him on your to-do list. Okay, I got this and this and this to do, but I gotta make sure that he's straight regardless. Whether he say, go on about your business, don't talk to me, or leave me alone, whatever he say, you do your part. All right, you do your part. So make sure that you are let him know how much you appreciate him. The next thing, never stop praying for your husband. Don't stop praying. Don't stop praying. Don't stop praying. I remember one time I was in my bed, and like I said, me and my husband, we were separated for like 2.5 years. And I was getting to a place where I was tired of praying. I was tired of praying for him. And I remember just like getting mad and kicking and saying, man, do the blood still works, God? Like, do his stuff even work? I'm praying and doing all this fasting and stuff, and ain't nothing happening. And I kid you not, it was pitch black in my bedroom, pitch black. And I seen these drops of red dots, like these just drops. And as I seen it, it was getting bigger and bigger and big. And the Lord said to me, the blood still works. He was showing me the drops of blood. He was dropping the blood. It was like red drops dropping over me. I'm like, what in the world? I thought I was freaking out. God said the blood still works. The blood still works. So that's why I always emphasize to wives, don't ever stop praying for your husband. You might have to pray a whole 1 year just to get him to do one thing. But guess what? It'll be all worth it. It'll be all worth it in the end. You may have to pray for a long time to get a one result. And it still may not be what you want it to be. But God is saying, don't ever stop praying. Don't ever stop praying for him. All right. The next thing is start taking action, wives. Listen, so many times wives get caught up, get in the middle of, get so focused on what he is doing that they completely lose sight of what they supposed to be doing. Listen, like I said in the beginning, if God has asked you, wife, to stay in this unhealthy marital covenant, you have to understand that this is not about just your husband. God is trying to do something in you. And so while you got your eyes on your husband, and while you got your eyes on, oh, he doing this, or he ain't come home this time, or what he's doing now, or who he talking to, or what he finna do, or why he taking a shower, while you doing all that kind of stuff, which is over exhausting. Let me just put that out there. I know, because I done it. All right. While you got your eyes caught up on him, God is saying, you have not yet spent time with me today. You have not yet prayed today. You have not looked into that role I asked you to do yet. You have not yet called that person I told you to call. You have not yet, talked to your child today. You have not yet set that mommy and son date up today. You have not yet cleaned up this part of your house. You have not yet looked into this, this new job position that I'm trying to give you. God is saying you got to take your eyes off of what he is doing, wise, and get focused and get back in alignment with what God will have you to do. Your husband will benefit. Listen to me, wives. I'm trying to tell you something. Your husband will benefit, wife, on you getting yourself right with God. Your husband's going to benefit from that. Your toxic husband is going to benefit from you getting healthy. He's going to benefit from that. If God is telling you, wife, to stay with that unhealthy husband, he's doing it for you. And your husband will reap the benefits from it. Your children will reap the benefits from it. People around you will reap the benefits from you getting right, you getting in alignment, you getting healthy, you getting whole, you getting emotionally balanced. Man, emotional intelligence, what? I didn't even know what that word meant. Who is emotionally intelligent? He will do one thing and I will go off the route. Like, who you think you talking? Ain't have no control. People looking at you like you crazy. The Bible say, listen, even a fool can be looked at as somebody as being wise. But when you start talking and acting crazy and, going looking for somebody to pass by, they don't know who the fool is. They don't know who the fool is. I had no self-discipline, no self-control, no, none of that stuff, because I was so busy in my husband's stuff and trying to figure out and point out all the things that he was doing wrong. God was saying, you don't even realize that you got some insecurities on your own. You don't even realize that you're dealing with some hard stuff on your own from your past. You don't even realize that you're dealing with some childhood traumas. You don't even realize that you got some stuff going on from your past. You don't even realize that you're still connected to a man that you haven't been with in over 10 years. You don't even realize that you still have some stuff going on. And so I like to just emphasize that to wives, to make sure that you are taking care of yourself in this hour, in this season. I know marriage is hard. It is not for the weak. I tell people that all the time. Marriage is not for the weak. But if God has called you to it, he will definitely bring you through it. But you're not going to be able to do it keeping your eyes on your husband, and you're not going to be able to do it in your own strength. You're not going to be able to do it in using your control. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. And so that's why I offer a 9 weeks course for wives who are married to unhealthy husbands. I help wives come to a place of clarity where they can get healthy. You get yourself healthy so you can be healthy for him, so you can be healthy for your kids, so you can be healthy for yourself, so you can do what it is that God has called you to do. And I know we've heard that word before, copycat. I know we've heard that, copycat. I think it is in 1 Peter 3 where it talks about a wife who is dealing with an unbelieving husband. Talks about if she carry herself a certain way, she can win her husband over by the way she that she's carrying herself. We can win our spouses over, wives, just by our behavior, just by us showing up in a healthy way, in a much, we understand what our assignment is, what we supposed to be doing. We can win our husband over because he sees that and he want to copy that. Healthiness is attractive. It's attractive, and they want that too. But they may not necessarily know how to get there, to get to that place. But it starts with you, wife. It starts with you. If God has asked you to stay in this unhealthy marriage, God is trying to do something in you. And so I want to extend that invitation to you. You can contact me on my website, www.marriagechroniclesbytanika.com, where I offer a 9-week course for wives who are in a season where they're ready to heal and gain clarity on what they are supposed to be doing in their unhealthy marriage, how they're supposed to maintain themselves in their unhealthy marriage. Listen, our God is for your marriage. God is a God of reconciliation. He is a God of reconciliation. He wants to bring restoration into your marital covenant. And so I'm really, really, really urging my wives to take this into consideration going into this 2021 year. Do not go into this 2021 year being the same person, being the same wife, doing the same nagging, all in his ear, saying the same thing, or you might have tried it, or you did this. Come on, man. He's tired of hearing that. And this is a bonus. Let me just throw this part out here. It is too easy now. Hear me on this, wives. It is too easy now for them to go out in the streets and get what they don't get at home. It's too easy. The enemy has laid it all out for them. It's a real easy, layout. All you got to do is do a little here, do a little here. You have women out here who do not mind sleeping with your married husband. They don't mind that. And so one of the things I always tell my wives, if he came home, if the Lord brought him back home, don't send him back out to the streets. Don't send him back out there. Keep him in the house. If God has allowed him to come home, God is saying, I have trusted you. I trust you enough to handle my son. I trust you enough to handle my son's dysfunctionness. The Bible tells us to burden one another, be able to burden with each other. God is saying, I trust you enough, wife, with my son. And so I'm going to send him back home. Don't send him back out to the streets. Some streets ain't no good for him. But what I do need you to do is, in the meantime, get yourself right. Get yourself in alignment with me. Come in alignment with me. Get your assignment in order. Get what you're supposed to be getting from me in this time, in this hour, so that we can pursue what we need to do in your marriage. He's going to get the benefit of you gaining clarity and becoming healthy and taking care of yourself, wife. So sign up for my 9 weeks hiswife, her Buoyancy Boost healing journey, which consists of me just helping wives come into full understanding of their role while being married to a unhealthy spouse. I want to help you in that area. Contact me at www.marriagechroniclesbytanika.com. Listen, thank you all for who joined me. I want to say hello. I don't normally get on this early. I have a session at 10 o'clock, so I wanted to pop in real fast. Like I said, I was spending some time with God this morning, and I wanted to share that little message with you. So thank you again for joining me. Talk to you soon. Blessings.